Okay, hello and welcome everyone. I'm Emily Wishaw with Wishaw Wellness, Live in Alignment, here today interviewing Rachael Jayne Groover, which I'm so excited and thrilled to do. I was introduced to Rachael Jayne just almost a year ago, not quite. In February was my first time going to a talk she did, and have really delved into her work. So Rachael Jayne is the best-selling author of the book Powerful and Feminine, and creator of the Art of Feminine Presence work, at which some of you have been in my class or coming to do my upcoming class, as I've done her teacher training in this past year. So thank you, Rachael Jayne.
You're
for being
welcome.
Here and doing this.
This is fun.
Anything else you want to say before we kind of get into?
Well, I think, what we were talking about just before and what might be a good conversation to have is around leadership. And, all of our work is mostly with people who've been on a personal and spiritual development path for quite a long time. And so they're not just dealing with metaphysics 101 or,
Right.
oh, I'm awakening, but they've been doing a lot of work, and the natural progression is, how do I make more of a difference? How do I be more of a leader? And that might be a leader in your job or a business or in your home, anyway. And how to help women be seen and be heard and inspire change from that, because we're still in a place where men tend to have an easier time in getting attention that they want.
Yeah.
In the business realm, in the leadership realm. And not to go into, man bashing or this is the way it's been. It's just their presence, their voice, their confidence. They don't tend to have so much fear about just going for it. And so my love is helping women who have such a mission and such a message, and they want to expand, but there's a lot that's like,
Yeah, it's
a little
scary.
bit scared about that, and really how to come into full ownership was what you were talking about, full ownership of that full feeling of your value. So whatever it is that you're trying to do actually gets the attention that you're trying to receive.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Good starting point too, because I think for a lot of us women, we either haven't felt like we've had the permission or the space to step into that and show up that fully and be seen. And how does that look like? So speaking on leadership, because I know I too feel a call to work with leaders, and I love that you kind of broke down like what would does that mean? Because in my opinion, I even have it on my website, a stay-at-home mom is a leader. She's leading her family, and when we can actually own that terminology, it affects how we interact with our family. We show up in a different way as opposed to just going through the motions.
Yes.
Even if you're that stay-at-home mom, or if you're a business owner or working with a business. So I'm just curious, how do you see leadership, and what is that?
Well, it keeps changing for me every year. Like in this, I've always been interested in leadership, but how the leadership is working in our business and our team and the community that we run. But I always go back to this quote, or I can't remember if it was a Margaret Mead quote, but a leader is not the person who has the most amount of followers. It's the person who creates the most amount of leaders.
Oh.
Yeah, so apologies if I think it's a Margaret Mead thing or something like that, but it just is always stuck with me. And as I go into this next year, and as you probably go into this next year of wanting to be fully expressed and move into your leadership, to keep that in mind. It's not just like, oh, how many followers, which we sometimes, our ego can get into with like, oh, how many likes have I got and how many things. But it's, if you can create 3 or 4 really amazing leaders, that's where you make your impact. And leadership, if you are really at the top of your game in that, is quite, there's a lot of responsibility. It's about someone taking 100% responsibility for what you're trying to accomplish. There's no room for like, well, this person did that, or my Taurus wasn't aligned with my such and such, you know, like
those 2 weeks right before Christmas when we were in Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, it's
that
like
kept coming up in conversations. People around were like, "Well, Mercury's in retrograde,
right,
so
Mercury's in
do
retrograde."
that."
And I'm all for, you know, where's the flow and where are the planets and all of that. But a true leader goes, we are in that place, and what is it that I can do to take full responsibility for the thing that I want to have happen in this world? And women, even that have been on a personal development path, and I work with lots of them, they're not even close to taking 100% responsibility for their own leadership. I'm not. I don't feel like I am, but every year it's coming to that. So it's full responsibility is leadership. But what I'm also realizing is when you're full in your leadership, there is a relaxation that happens that doesn't happen when you're not a true integrated leader. And why would you be more relaxed when you're at your full potential of leadership? Because you have trained everyone around you, and your job is to make them the leader. So our business is a great example.
Yeah.
Right? Continuously creating leaders in the team has me now, and yesterday was a really cool moment of this. I sat in the team meeting and I almost was in tears. I said, I am so thankful for all this support that is streaming into me and data and our mission, and it's because of the leadership that's been created, not me going, okay, now this is what you do and this is what you do. And think about that like mums, right? Are you training leaders, or are you training do this and do that and this is how I think? And
it's like micromanaging, as opposed to not only stepping into your full responsibility, but showing that example.
Exactly. And if you're in corporate, or you're in a association or medium-sized business, you're probably seeing, or if you're definitely in a leadership position, there's a huge problem that is finally now being talked about, which is there's been too much management and not enough leaders. So leaders are being pulled into management, and management of people is very different to inspiring leaders that can do that. So across the board, I do agree that mums are leaders, and you're running a non-profit, or you're part of a non-profit. Fundraising is leadership, but to keep in mind the relaxation that is possible when you realize it's not about you. It's about your ability to inspire others to take that next leap in their leadership.
It's interesting as you say that, because I can feel myself coming from, oh, here's the cameras on, to, oh yeah, I can relax back in. And I think that that's useful, because I know a lot of the clients I work with, a lot of the women in my life and that I work with, are often weary of the word leadership, because also it just feels tiring. It's draining
because of the responsibility piece.
Yeah, and so I'm curious that relationship between that relaxation and that doing. So being more in a relaxing, receptive mode and letting things come, as opposed to push. I work with a lot of my clients are in like more corporate realms, and the conversation that comes up is, we'll get some changes, either if it's with the coaching or in my Rolfing practice, of how they feel in their body, but how can we, then they go and are on the computer for however many hours a day making phone calls, and they forget, or they don't feel their space, because then they'll be slow or ineffective,
or they've forgotten how amazing it was when they did give themselves space, and how much more receptivity they were in. I mean, I'm talking to myself here too, like just remembering that is.
It needs to be a constant reminder.
And I love how you say the balance, like the two, the receptivity and the push, because there's been a conversation recently, especially in the more personal development, spiritual development, of going out of the push and into the receptivity. And that also concerns me, right? Because it's both. It's when am I receptive, and when do I, in quotes, push?
Yeah.
Right? But if I'm pushing on something where I'm out of alignment, I don't really want, it's a should, it's a mental construct, then it's going to be very tiring, and you're going to get very upset at your kids or your husband or wherever that pretty quickly. But if you're in the receptive mode of the ideas and the things that you need to do next, and you get that, then that's the moment to push. Because some spiritual women, it's like, unfortunately, they make the least amount of money and the least amount of impact a lot of the time. Because, okay, I'm going to be in this space, I'm going to be in this space, and now you've got to take action on it full tilt, right? But then you can't do, then you got to be receptive, and then you got to, so it's a real balance, and it's something that you've got to ask yourself every day, like, where am I in that balance? Am I being too receptive, taking too many walks in nature, going, oh, I don't feel like it right now, I'm just gonna take a bath and do that next week, and you're in procrastination station? Or are you in this, like, I got to do it, tell me what the next thing is to do, tell me what the next thing is to do, I'll do it. And then you're like, nothing's working, why is nothing working? And being in either of those spaces.
What would be, I'm curious, like, if you have, you know, either in your life or somebody worked, like a tangible example of, because I know you speak a lot about this, and my morning practice has become really essential to me. Because if I just go straight into my email or I am in pushing mode for however many hours.
Not a happy camper.
Need a nap or need to check out. And it's not checking out really in a way that's receptive or in flow. It's more just I've exhausted myself or gotten so scattered I don't even know what I accomplished. So I'm just curious to have some sort of tangible example of like walking through. I don't even know what that would look. I think the computer's voice comes to me because I work with the body all the time, and we live in such a disembodied world, and I really feel we need more leaders who are in their body because there's more space for less reactivity, less conflict, and more understanding. But we get our computers involved in our phone, and as leaders, as human beings, we just forget. So how can we set ourselves up for still being in receptive mode as we're, either creating content or answering emails, whatever it is we might be doing in that more really narrow push world?
I love that. I mean, it's a individual thing. You've got to find out, what works for you. But my whole morning is designed to put me in my body and to be ready for the first meeting and the first email or whatever's going to be thrown at me that day and things like that, and then throughout the day. So when I'm at the computer, which is a lot of the time, whether I'm doing a Zoom call or a coaching call or whatever, but I've usually got music going on in the background that has positive affirmation, or it has crystal bowl, or it has something. So all day long I'm in that place, which helps me stay in my body. A simple thing is I always got these slippers on, right? I want shoes on that helps me stay grounded. And maybe you can't do that in your workplace, or maybe you can when you're just at your cubicle or whatever. I
like that example, and I think especially for us females, that texture is what comes to me as important. And I've given the example to a couple clients. I'm like, bring a little bit of velvet to your desk. And just put it in your lap. And, if you're on a phone call that's tense, or if you're feeling like you just can't get out of your head bubble, just start feeling the velvet. Something
it's
really
my hand
simple.
Cream. That's my version. The hand cream. Sitting here for 5 minutes. That's one of my New Year's resolutions, is taking a moment in the morning and in the afternoon that is for stillness, just 5 minutes, and do my meditation earlier in the morning. But you've got to find that stillness, you've got to find that and be able to keep going, and notice during this year how long you can keep it going, right? Because you're done your exercise and you've done your meditation, you're good, and then someone emails you and go, I don't want to work with you anymore, Emily, and you're like, and it's the emotional roller coaster. But you've got to get off that emotional roller coaster, and that's not easy. I'm a completely emotional being. If I can get off the roller coaster, anybody can get off the roller coaster. I'm a you know.
That's helpful.
But to notice, how long you can go, and what I call is be unshakable. I mean, this work with Art of Feminine Presence is about helping women be unshakable, be in their center, in their core so much, not just for stillness and for more expansion of the receptivity of your guidance that's coming through, that knows exactly your next move, but when people come, when conflict comes, like how to be fully expressed in that, to be able to share your truth. And you know, again, I got to say, like, I'm coming from a chronic people pleaser mentality. I'm coming from a huge fear of rejection, a huge desire to be liked, issues of abandonment, you know, like that sort of stuff. And that wreaks havoc in your career, right? Or in your relationships, if that's happening. And so with that Art of Feminine Presence, you know, all the practices just keep bringing me back into what stops those triggers. And so I can, yes, be liked and be inspiring, but not change what's really supposed to happen in that moment just because of my fears or what have you, you know.
That's huge. So essential, especially as those of us who desire to be more fully expressed and show that full range and full expression, to be able to be unshakable in that and not be just wanting to be liked and to please. And I am continually working with that. So it can be an ongoing path. Yeah. So I'm curious to talk about if the difference that you see between feminine and masculine leadership, because I feel, and I don't believe one is better than the other. I work with a lot of women. I also work with men, and I think that is a piece of the conversation that's getting left out, is how to, as more and more women are stepping up and owning our power, how do men then get to relate in that. We don't need to go into that right now, but how that looks different, especially as more of us are stepping in women-owned businesses and desiring to do business in a feminine way, which looks different than the masculine, and which is okay. But are they different? Would you say they're different? Do you think there's similar?
Well, I think there is so many definitions of what feminine and masculine leadership is, and I have a little different take on it, because I think that it's really important to pull apart feminine essence in a woman and masculine essence in a woman or man, and the yin and the yang qualities of us, of our life, of the way that we lead. And so I usually, when people talk about feminine leadership is more receptive and collaborative and all of that, I actually like changing that word to its more yin aspects of leadership than the more yang aspects of leadership, because when a woman is in her full presence, ownership, inspiring leadership, business is working, there is a complete balance most days of the yin and the yang. It's not just collaborative, it's hierarchical. Right? Where some people might go, well, feminine leadership's there's no hierarchy, which is why we've gotten into the problems that we've gotten into, is there is hierarchy. There's hierarchy to consciousness levels, there's hierarchy to people's compassionate levels, there's hierarchy to people who are not able to hold their center. There's just is. And if we don't understand that, then who's leading? Oh,
yes, right.
We'll lead together.
Totally.
That's your truth. That's my truth. We'll just have to disagree. But no, there is inherent truth. There is inherent next step. There is inherent. So it's again why I don't love the definitions of feminine leadership that are like, oh, this is all the yin stuff, because you want to be collaborative and you want to be hierarchical. You want to be receptive and you want to be directive. You want to be soft and you want to be hard. You want to be firm. So what I talk about with feminine leadership is more about what you talk about with the embodied piece of the feminine. That if you can understand that your presence, your magnetism, your leadership comes from the balance and noticing
the yin
and the yang, you know, am I too yin? Am I taking too many walks? Or am I doing too much stuff and I'm not taking time for myself? but you've got that balance. Then the question is, can I do that from my feminine essence? And the feminine essence, how we talk about it, you know, when we discuss and with Art of Feminine Presence, is the sensuality, the sexuality, the physical, energetic nature of being a woman who has a primary sexual essence of feminine. Not every woman has their primary sexual essence as feminine, but most of us do, meaning when we're in our feminine, it feels like it's easier to be present, it feels easier to be happy, it feels easier to be expansive. Where men who have a primary masculine essence, most of them do, they're happier, they're more present, when they're in their masculine essence, leading with that. And that is a physical and energetic thing. So my work has been, for myself first, has been, how do I be this balance? But I'm always tuning in to my womb space, my hips, my pelvis, the feminine energy that goes down into the ground, less, you know, masculine energy that goes through the body.
Yeah.
And how do I be that as I'm getting a lot of stuff done, as I'm, you know, leading a lot of people or running an event that's got hundreds of people, like, but I'm still in my feminine, and I can look at my husband, Dada, who has a primary essence of masculine. You know, he's in his masculine presence. So long story short, I would work on the questions, where am I out of balance with yin or yang? And am I coming to it from my feminine essence? The velvet, the hand cream, the dropping down into your body, the lower half of your body, and being that balance from that place, I think is feminine leadership.
Totally, yeah. I so appreciate that distinction, because there is the yin and the yang qualities to both. And just being feminine doesn't just mean slow and frou-frou.
Exactly.
And just hanging out all day. No, actually, we can get a lot done as well, but it can feel good when we're getting it done and not that forceful. Yeah. So with that, because that's on the embodiment piece, this is my belief and opinion. I think that you will, imagine that you will agree with you, is I believe women, the more we are in our body, the more powerful and confident we become. And I think a lot of women are afraid of being seen and afraid of stepping their full expression of what that means. So what would be your either like number one tip or quick, like an easy, helpful suggestion for a woman who feels like she desires to be seen more, whether it's in her relationship or in her business or career, but feels scared, that pull? How can she first tap into her body more? Because I think that is confusing too for a lot of people. When I say this, I've had this happen before, and I've said to a client, okay, let's drop into your body. They're like, I don't
know what that means.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly,
you know, an embodiment is thrown around so much. Like, what does it actually mean? How what would maybe be an easy suggestion
and
there?
I love the question of like how that leads to confidence, because you're not going to practice what I'm going to show you unless you really get that it leads directly to your confidence, to your ownership of your power. And most people have been out of their body for many hundreds of years and just sort of in what we call the head bubble. And that feels more powerful than being in the body sometimes, because the intellect's there and I can be sharper there, or I can, you know, not get, you know, put off by their eye contact, or I'm just in my head doing the thing. So there is some level of confidence there. So you've got a vulnerable, courageous decision to make when you follow Emily drop into your body, because you've got to give up one power in order to gain a power that is 100 times greater, but you don't know what that feels like yet, you know? So give yourself that time to feel like, okay, now I'm in my body. How do I relate to the world from that place? Because it is 100 times or more powerful. So what is in my body? I was asking that question so much too many years ago. What's this word embodiment? I mean, you know, all these like hippie chicks are telling me, get more embodied. And I'm like, what? But take it from your hands, right? Just feel your hands right now. And the difference between putting your attention on your hands. Like, here are my hands. I'm going to put my mental attention on my hands, right? They're on there. There's her hands. There's my hands, right? They're on the hands. And then switch to your attention being inside your hands, inside the energetic space that permeates your hands. If you don't feel much energy in your hands, you can shake them or do the, rubbing together and feeling that. But I now want you to be inside the internal space of your hands. And do you notice automatically that feels different?
Totally.
So,
yeah, that feels like more warmer. The quality is different.
The tingling.
Yeah, a lot more sensation. Mm-hmm.
Your head's not so much on like, there's my hands. Okay, they're a bit wrinklier than they were last year. There's her hands. Oh, hers is a little smaller than mine. Like, they're not in the head. They're in the sensation of presence. And when you can do that in your full body, not just your hands, your mind stops. You still that chatter. You still that, I've got to do that to please them. I've got to, okay, I won't do that. Or you come off something you know for certain that you should be sticking with, but you don't. Happens when you're in that moment. So we talk about the womb space and taking it from the hands and then into the power center of the woman, second chakra, lower pelvis, about 3 inches below the navel, and see if you can, while listening to us, be inside your pelvic bowl. Even with men watching, it's the same. Pelvic bowl, the center of your physical and energetic body, is lower dantian or dantian if you're a yoga person or qigong person. But you can't go, okay, I've got my focus there, I'm being a good yoga person. It's got to be, I'm in it.
Right.
I'm in it. It's a little further down and back. And so before we did the video, we were like, okay, let's drop in. And so you didn't see us really so much in head bubble before. But if I go out from presence into head bubble, you notice it. Right?
It's amazing how tangible that is. It is noticeable.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just have to say, from especially the last 3 or 4 years of my life, I've done a lot of received a lot of one-on-one coaching, done a ton of programs, which were really amazing and helpful, but all very mental and okay, affirmations or looking at my negative thinking and all that. This work of really learning how, and as a body worker, I thought, I'm in my body, and how pleasantly humbling to discover how often I'm not, the play between. But it is true. The more you can drop in and actually really be in that space and to be in your body, it's the faster track. I've found that, like, my voice of I'm not enough. Or those insecurities they don't exist here. So yeah, I invite you to play with it. It's very powerful.
Yes.
And it's practice. And
you've got to go to the mastery of it, because we start with the center of your energetic body, and then without a feminine presence, it's like, can I be in every cell of my body at the same time? If I'm speaking, if I'm on a video, if I'm having an argument, if I need to say something that's going to be really challenging to somebody, and what have you. But it's an ongoing process of degree. How much are you home? How much are you there? And often people will ask all sorts of questions. I've got this challenge, and my standard answer is, you're not home. And the reason why this is a standard answer for me is to come into your full leadership, to come into your full awakening and your impact. There's 3 main categories you've got to get really good at. One is your psychology, which is where's my negative thinking and what's my blind spots around my shadow work and all of that. You've got to become very, very clear on how your mind works. But then you've got the spiritual, and that spirituality is the receptivity. Can I be in connection with my greater source? And when that happens, you receive. You receive. That's the receiving mode you want to be more in than, oh, I better be better at receiving compliments and receiving money and receiving this. All that's good. Play with that. But the biggest receiving channel is this channel, that it just comes in, you know what to say. And when you're in womb space, like I'm going off here, I don't know what I'm going to say. I was like, oh, questions. It just comes through when you're in womb space. It does not come through, or it comes through from a mental construct when you're there. And the third in your awakening, psychology, spirituality, is the somatics. It's the how is the body cutting off or opening to these channels of full potential. And you don't know that if you're not in your body. So it's all three, and I think probably the somatics is the new wave. More people are talking about it.
Because I think that so often in the personal spiritual development world, we've been told not to be in our body, or we forget about our body, and we live in our bodies every day. And I think your physical presence is one of the most important things in leadership in your life. So because you think about manifesting, whatever it is that you want, it's easy to psychologically think about it, right? It's easy to intention it. It's easy to pray and receive, okay, this is where I'm going to be, and maybe get a hit on what to do. But then you got the rest of your life where you're trying to be in a state of alignment no matter what's going on. That's where the work is. Intention's easy. It's like, what else do you want? Write it down. Done. But now can you be in the state to receive all of that? And that takes 10 years. I mean, to really, really be amazing at it. And to not have anything throw you off. It takes 10 years. So the question we're asking, is, are you willing to put that time in, or to go to the next level of your mastery, versus going, well, it's my client, they're just not taking responsibility for themselves, or I need to up level my friends, they're not this. I mean, yes, up level everything, but you taking 100% responsibility for your life and what you're creating, and your ability to inspire leaders, not just go, well, I need a different person. Because usually the same person shows up with a different face. Totally. I'm seeing so many patterns in myself. I'm like, yep, that's what I got. Well, thank you.
You are welcome. I hope
so
we
much.
Got something out of it. I got another reminder for myself.
Yeah, it's always so helpful. I need constant, continual reminders. And I do believe starting to really master and these relationships with your body and being in that receptive mode while still getting stuff done is allowing for that full expression and allowing a new wave of leadership, which is so amazing. And so how can people who want to stay in touch with you, where can we find more information?
Easy. Maybe we'll put a link down here, because we have, my dog is just wanted to come in. We've got a link here. We're doing a completely free 3-part training called Fully Expressed 2018, which is about how to get the brakes off and become more visible and more well compensated as a feminine leader. And we'll be going over a lot of the pieces, giving you more practices from the art of feminine presence, more of your psychology, the spirituality of receptivity in your body, but really to get you off this I want to go, I got two steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward and 2 steps back, wherever you are with that. So we'll pop the link. It's on the 16th of January, the 17th and 18th. This is 3-part. It builds on each other. In the afternoon Mountain Time, around those times.
That'll be the perfect, I feel like, day
the next
after
step.
This.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're curious about the full expression and really owning that.
Yeah, completely free. And then if you're watching this afterwards, you're like, this is February, where do I get something? You can go to rachaeljayne.com. It's spelt weirdly. You can post it down there below. But yeah, lots of resources there too. We have a Awaken TV episode that comes out each week, and all of that.
That's great. Awesome. Well, again, thank you. It's such a pleasure. Really an honor for your time and to get to be here and do this. So thank you everyone for watching, and I look forward to hearing what was your main takeaway. Take care.